We are now live. Good evening, everyone. This is Carl Hinder, business coach with Salon Help. And tonight and every Wednesday night in 2020, I'm going to be running QCTV, Quick Coach TV. The idea being you ask the questions, I get them answered as quickly as possible. Now, tonight and every Wednesday night, we will answer whatever questions that you want as long as they develop in you or your business. So if you're in the barbering sector, beauty sector, hairdressing sector, doesn't matter. We are here. Now, tonight, I've got a special guest called David Grossi from an award-winning salon. He's going to introduce himself in a moment. But let me tell you first, tonight, we will answer all of your questions. Plus, we are going to talk about rent-a-chair and rent-a-chair contracts and what you should be doing when you go back. We're going to be talking about pricing at some stage. But most of all tonight, we want to talk about the positive things that you need to do to keep your business going. So what I want to do first of all, before David introduces himself, I just want someone to say, hi, Carl, we can hear you, before David and I spend the next hour just chatting to ourselves. So if anyone is on here and they could kindly just say, hi, Carl, it's great to see you this evening, and we can hear you, then that would get us off to a good start. I can see that we are live, so let's have a look where we are. Anybody want to talk? Just a thumbs up would be good. Say, I can hear you, Carl. We've got 12 people watching already. Deborah Jenkins is on board from New Zealand. Well done, Deborah. You're up and about. Very good. I think this has helped. Spend the next hour just chatting to ourselves. Okay. So if anyone is on here and they could... So you can now tell, guys, that we have a time delay. We have a 30 or 40 second time delay between the point that you ask us a question or the point that we say something and the point that you can hear us. That's a Facebook security issue, and hopefully that's not going to cause you any problems tonight. So let's have a look. What have we got going on here? Tonight, we've got Deborah Jenkins on from New Zealand. Thank you, Deborah. Kay's on. Kay Helen Volante is on. Marika's on. Darren Ennis is on. Deborah is back again. She says it's all good. If she says it's all good, it's good. Gillian Smith, as always, is with us. Lee Bratton's on. Pammy, Mark, Matthew John, Cheryl Brown, and Mark Dawson says, good evening, Carl. Simon Davis, thank you, Simon. Mark Dawson. For those of you that haven't been here before, just in case you think I've lost my mind, I don't speak this fast all the time. This is called Quick Coach TV, not Slow Coach TV, okay? Although I do feel like doing that sometimes. Quick Coach TV. So please, guys, let's smash out your questions about things in the industry that you need to answer so you move forward. Hi, Mark and Cheryl again. That's great. We want to answer your questions. Now, let's try and stay away from the coronavirus technicalities, things like loans and grants and universal credit, because to be honest with you guys, if you haven't done that by now, you're cutting it a bit fine. You've had over a week already. If you've got really, really big issues, then please message me after this. I work until midnight on a Wednesday. I'm more than happy to support you for this whole evening. You don't need to go to bed tonight worrying about anything at all. So we are going to start, whilst we're waiting for some questions, with David. And David's going to introduce himself, and then he's going to tell you about what he wants to talk about tonight.
Hi, Carl. My name's Dave Grossi. I've got the privilege of running a award-winning team. I've been in the industry for about 30 years. I'm very passionate about the job, and I think tonight we're going to talk about rent-a-chair. I mean, I'm not in favour. I've always employed my staff, but I know there's pros and cons for both. And also we want to talk about some positive sides of, what we should be doing right now to try and help people to come out of this running, not walking. And we should be actively doing stuff now to try and encourage people back in the door the minute the doors open.
Okay, great. Listen, guys, if you really want to get into the detail of the pros and cons of rent-a-chair versus employment and all the legal issues, okay, so they're impartial. There's a video on my YouTube channel. I think it's about an hour long. Okay, it goes into all the detail that you'll ever need. The only thing I wanted to touch on tonight for the contracts was this. I think that there are some people who are renting a chair or renting a space and employees who haven't been treated very well. This is the point I wanted to make tonight. A few people haven't been treated very well by the people above them because they're not your employers if you're renting a chair. So what I wanted to say to you is, look, when you go back, first of all, please consider whether you should even be rent a chair. Have you really managed Have you benefited from being a rent-a-chair person or a rent-a-space person in this predicament? Because this recession thing isn't going to be rare. Recessions come along every 10 years anyway. So please, before you go back, this is the only thing I wanted to really point out is please make sure you got good contracts with your property owners. Okay. Now, some of you maybe are not treated them very well. You know what I mean? Have you been paying your rent whilst you've not been there? I bet you haven't. Okay. So you're expecting those to look after you, but you're not paying your rent. So make sure that when you go back, that the agreement and the relationship is better than it has been for some of you. And I'm only basing that on some of the discussions that I've had over the last few months. So, David, what do you think about that part of the rent-a-car situation where the agreements aren't very good and they're not being treated very well by the owner of the property?
So, okay, so in my shops, we've always employed. Now, we spoke to this in long depth over the last couple of days. Now, you know, it's a rock and a hard place. A lot of people like it. I've seen good and bad in both. And my biggest issue is with the rent-a-chair scenario is you've got to follow guidelines. The guidelines in place are, if you rent a chair, you rent that space. The person that you rent the chair off, they have no control over you whatsoever. You charge your own prices. You have your own liability insurance. You are in completely control of that space. You can come in on a Sunday if you want to and work because that space is yours. The problem I see is with rent-a-chair is, you know, I see people that come from rent-a-chair to employed is sometimes the guidelines aren't followed. You know, you've got to really make sure that, you know, there's one price on the door. You know, the customers don't know that these guys are renting a chair. They're all wearing uniform with the same logos on it. You know, all these things that, you know, you shouldn't be doing. If you're renting a chair, you should have your own brand on your own T-shirt. You shouldn't be wearing a branded T-shirt. You know, I'm very much in favor of employing. I mean, a lot of people say, you know, oh yeah, it's because the employer makes more money. It isn't. You know, it's a far harder job to employ people than it is to take someone in as rent-a-chair, in my eyes. You know, if it was about the money, I would have everybody renting a chair, and you know, I'd get away from having a HR company. I would be able to reduce my VAT bills. I wouldn't have any pensions to pay. I would have no risk of SSP. I'd have, you know, I wouldn't have any employer's protection. You know, all these little things that all the insurances, liabilities, I wouldn't have. So my costs would be reduced, and my risk would be reduced. I'd constantly be getting money. As where when you employ people, you get this whole fluctuation of you have to adjust for. So I'm personally in favour of not rent-a-chair. I'm
okay, so I mean, so listen, guys, you've got an award-winning salon's point of view here. I'm not offering my point of view tonight on rent-a-chair, not rent-a-chair. I think it's well publicised how I feel about how we treat both in our industry. I think for salon
award-winning team, Carl. I like to call it award-winning team, not a salon. Award-winning team.
Sorry. Okay, I've been corrected, guys. And you know that's a poignant point if you can have two things in the same sentence. But that is the point. David's team is an award-winning team, and they're not self-employed. So the trouble is with the self-employed setups, they don't honestly believe, I don't think, that it can be done as an employed situation. I just want to say for today, though, is that if you're going back into that situation, just make sure that the agreement between you and the person who is doing your lease is a good and professional one. Because we could do the all hour on this, and I don't think it's suitable at the moment, but I do think it would be suitable in the next couple of months that we thrash this out, because in a few months' time, when this is all over, we are going to lose a whole lot of salons and barbershops and beauty salons, and the self-employed market is going to change. So good evening. Amy Richards, Gemma is on board, Claire Jubbly, twice today, that can't be bad, Claire, and Yvonne. Ellie McCann, of course. Hey, Ellie, and Bev Steele. Thank you, Bev. I'm glad you found time for us this week. That's great.
Hi, Bev. I was talking to Bev this morning. Hi, Bev.
Paul Spence, will IR35 stop or rent a chair and make everyone employed? Paul Spence, first of all, IR35 is at least 1 year away because it's been delayed. and then it's a few years away from getting to us. Okay, so please don't worry about IR35 in your business at the moment. IR35 is going to make Rent-A-Chair much more accountable. It's not going to do away with it, but it's going to make the owners, the property owners, that is, accountable for your national insurance and probably your tax, which is going to mean basically you're going to be becoming somewhat employed. So yes, in the long term, IR35 will change the barbering industry, but we can't wait.
It's not affecting small businesses, though, is it, Carl? Because it's only for businesses over £10 million, isn't it?
That's what I'm saying. That's what I said. It's delayed for a year. Then it'll be a couple of years before it even gets to us. Yeah. Ryan's on board. Louise Rogers. Ryan Fletcher says, good evening, guys. Good evening, Ryan. Matty, I have staff member who is ignoring her job roles. Is now the right time to lay her off? Matty, if this person is employed by you, first of all, if they're self-employed, they're not your employee. But first of all, if they are employed by you and you had a performance issue with them before this coronavirus came along, you should be dealing with that as a performance issue, not using this excuse to get rid of them. If you're saying they still underperforming, I don't understand, because I'm assuming by now you would have actually furloughed them. God, I'm fed up with that word. You would have furloughed them. And I would say you would be on very dodgy ground now to dismiss someone on the performance basis whilst they're not at work. So, Matty, I am not a HR expert, so I'm not going to give you legally binding advice. But I would probably say that in this crisis where they're getting paid 80%, is you wait until you get back and you deal with it professionally in a performance management way. What would you say, David? Because you've got plenty of staff.
Well, I, as far as I mean, this whole furlough thing, I've never heard it until only a few weeks back.
It's American.
As far as I understand it, furlough, they can't have any dealings with you at all. They are literally on long or short-term leave, or short-term layoff. Sorry. So as far as I understand it, you can't do any disciplinaries. You can't. They can't even have very little contact, as far as I'm aware.
No, I think Matty is suggesting that he is. The Matty suggesting that we get rid of them as opposed to doing furloughing. You'd have to talk to a HR expert, as you say. I think you're on very dodgy ground just to get rid of somebody. Depends how long they've been with you. If they've been with you less than 2 years, then you can actually sort of say, right, okay, as far as I understand it, you'd have to pay them their severance pay, and you can get rid of them. But I think after 2 years, it becomes a lot more complicated. Yep. I'm pretty sure Matty knows the answer to that question, by the way. I think Matty's doing it for the benefit of the board. Thank you, Matty. Ellie's on board and she's getting Lena across. Louise says, hi, Carl. Well, Louise, there's David here as well tonight. Bev, two of my favorites. Gosh, she's smoothing us up here, David. That's Bev, that is. Ellie says, she got Sam Carter coming across. Sam's on board. Lena's on board. Kay says, I'm paying my rent. It's only fair as the salon owner has to pay hers. If that changes, I'm sure she will be fair the other. Do you know what, Kay? I'm not really critical of this. If you genuinely have no money, therefore you cannot pay rent, then look, there's nothing to be said. That is the reality of your situation. However, at the minute that the government said stop, salons stopped paying rent. And it was, no matter how much money they had in the bank, they automatically believed that their landlord had an obligation to give them a rental holiday. Now, I think, and I am a landlord, I think it's a good thing to do if you can do it, but the landlords then financially suffer. So they got to go off and get loans or grants to pay the rent that you're not paying. So look, Kay,
that's another thing though, Cole, Rent-A-Chair, isn't it? So if the guy that owns the shop is paying his landlord rent, in theory, if I'm still paying rent, I'm still going to pay my rent, to my land, because I'm going to, because I've got the money there. But in theory, if someone was renting chair off me, that they should be paying rent as well, because that they are technically renting the space that you're subletting that space out.
Yeah. So if you're a Rent-A-Chair person, David's absolutely right. Go and pay your rent, guys. Now, if you can't, I don't want to dwell on this too much because I've been ranting about this for a week. If you can't pay your rent as a small business, you can't pay your rent as a Rent-A-Chair person. I've heard people saying they were broke after 3 days. It wasn't the coronavirus, guys. It wasn't the government. It was your business. It weren't very good. It went very good last week. So when we get back, this is what we're going to talk about. We're going to switch all this around in a minute, guys. We're going to stop ranting, and we're going to be talking about, let's do some positive stuff. So we've got Lena's on board. She says, hey, guys, and Kelly's on board. Thank you, Kelly, for joining us. I just seen someone called Sally. There are. Sally's on board. Good evening to you too. Sarah's on board. Thank you, Sarah. Karina's on board. Susie's on board. Jack Robinson's on board. Yvonne Whittle, okay, employee is harder work but better way. I don't know. Okay, so Yvonne is saying that employee and employer is harder work but a better way. Personally, I don't think it is harder work. I think it is much easier to have a team you control than a team that you don't control. Ultimately, you have your destination in your own hand, Yvonne.
There's definitely pros and cons, I think, for both, isn't it? I mean, I prefer to employ because, you know, I'm a bit of a control freak and you know, I think you deliver on the ground floor a better service for the customer, and you deliver, like we were talking about earlier, I think, you know, with teaching and training that we do within the shop, because we do all that in-house. Yeah. And I think with that, if each one of my customers get into each individual one of my staff's chair, I'd like to think that we're delivering almost a uniformed service, not just the haircut. The haircut's a little bit different because we'll have our own little flair, but it's that universal, USB that we got, that when they come in the door, they're welcomed the same. They feel like they're part of what is our salon, you know? And I think that's the bit I like about employing everybody. I mean, you know, say it'd be less hassle not employing them, because I wouldn't have this HR issues. I wouldn't have all the, you know, the pensions and payroll and stuff like that I've got to deal with. But it definitely, you know, that's what, you know.
I tell you what, in the fairness of balance, we'll come back to this subject, because Lena has just said that in future she only wants to be self-employed, and I think maybe we get someone like Lena on, and maybe we have a three-cornered triangle. I don't know if you can have a four-cornered triangle. All triangles got three corners, I know, don't worry. Tanya's on board as well. And Lena, I don't blame you for your decision, because I think the principles of self-employment for the self-employed worker, if done properly, are very, very good. The amount of flexibility. Yeah. If it's done properly, the flexibility it gives you is fabulous. Toria's on board. Becky's on board. Now, before we go any further, guys, I just want to tell you, this is called QCTV, Quick Coach TV, where myself and a guest every single week will be here on Wednesday nights at 8:30 p.m. British Summer Time throughout 2020. Now, you get to ask the questions. We will answer them as quickly as we can. Tonight, we've already got a queue of 37 questions coming, David, but you can phone in, guys. 07931 518 642 if you want to jump the queue, but everyone can hear it. So if you're a bit shy, keep the questions coming. If you want to phone in, it's 07931 518 642. Charlotte says, hey guys, I made the decision to employ only in December. I'm glad I did. Now I have a great team who are accountable, positive and creative. Charlotte, I'm glad it worked for you. I think it works for more salons. But the overall point for me tonight was just to say, if you're going back into that situation, make sure the relationship between you and the property owner is good and professional. That's the summary I wanted to get on that. Lena says, glad that was made clear. Then about IR35. Lena, forget about IR35. It's not coming your way anytime soon. Ryan says, I think with employed team, everyone sings up the same hymn sheet. Yes, and they have the same goals, which is what David just said. That's how he's got the award-winning team, guys. Didn't you know that? Vaughn Whittle says, yes, I think that too, Ryan. Good. We've got some people agreeing on you. Nicola Richardson, brilliant as usual. Thank you, guys. Nicola, you're a superstar yourself. Thank you for supporting me as much as you do. Toria, evening. Okay, just had a thought, but can owner-directors put their wages up to cover the drop-off from non-coverage of dividends?
This one's an interesting one. I've just dealt with this today, actually.
Go for it, David. Go for it.
So literally this morning. So obviously, it's a really funny question, that one, because with dividends and as you probably know, most directors take minimum wage and they take everything in dividends. So that's where this whole furlough scenario comes in. So if you furlough yourself, which you can furlough yourself, as far as I understand it, talking to my accountant this morning, but you can't have any involvement with your business at that point. So you've basically got to mothball your business and reopen it when you do. Now, the bit about raising your money. Now, you can raise your money if you haven't filed in this tax year. So if you've not filed, if your end of tax year is April the 1st, and you're about to do it, you can put your salary up, okay? But there will be a consequence because you'll be paying more tax. So if you're a 40% tax earner, if you put your money up, you will pay 40% tax on what comes in. So there's a bit of a balance act. So you may put it up to say, so you can get, 2,500, which is £30,000 a year for this, to get the maximum furlough. But the problem is you'll pay 40% back in tax if you're over that bracket. As far as I understand it this morning, I'm not an accountant, but I was going through it with her this morning. There is a bit of an equation going on that she's trying to work out what is the best scenario. But you can't have any more involvement in your business. You have to either cut it down, and you'd have to.
That's definitely true of the furlough, and that's the main decision that I made as a business coach to not furlough, because I need to work 24/7 for the next 3 months. Tori, I think David did a great job of answering that question as a non-HR person. If you think you haven't got your question answered there, personally inbox me, because I do have someone who may be able to clarify that for you tomorrow. Paul Spence is on board, and Paul Spence says, do you think owners want more rent-a-chair workers and don't put prices up so they don't go over the VAT threshold? Look, Paul, this is the whole concept of rent-a-chair workers versus non-rent-a-chair workers. It's when people are doing it for the wrong motivation, and of course they do it sometimes. Some people, not that I know any, that do it to avoid VAT. Paul, you knew that, otherwise you wouldn't be asking me. And then we've got Matty says, thank you guys. I'm still new at owning a salon and learning all the laws on staff. Matty, you'll never learn them. And do you know what? You don't have to. You just need to know the ones that you're open with rating with on a daily basis. Then you join something like the National Hairdressers Federation and you contact them every time you have an issue in your business. And then you can learn on that basis as well. Or you can follow people like myself and David, who've got years of experience, and we can guide you through most of this.
Oh, can I just add to that? Sorry. So with someone was saying about with his issues learning about the laws and bits and pieces, a few years ago, I decided to take on a HR company. And because we were growing and expanding all the time, we took on Peninsula, which is a designated HR company, which is great. And they have been worth their weight in gold. They constantly keep us updated in health and safety. And it is, as I found, as you expand, if that gentleman wants to expand, is to put these things in place, like, stop yourself from worrying about it. Get a HR company. Get something that is designated to that, so that you don't have to stress about it. It takes away one stress, that you're covered. If I've got an issue and I've got them sign their contracts and I've followed their protocols that they tell me to follow, they cover me in the court of law to make sure I'm covered. Which is great.
Can I expand on that a bit, Matty? And for all of you out there, right? Don't be afraid to set your business up with specialists. Okay, there's nothing wrong with you having an accountant. There's nothing wrong. In fact, you must have one. Okay, there's nothing wrong with you having a HR specialist. There's nothing wrong with you having a business coach. There's nothing wrong with you having any specialist that you need in your business. You haven't got to be the specialist on every single thing in your business. Nobody can. Even the guys running Tesco's have got human resources departments. They have legal departments. That's all you've got to do, is on a much smaller scale. And of course, you don't want to make mistakes as you go in, but please bring in these experts. And whilst you might feel like, well, I'm not paying that few £100 a year for Peninsula or the NHF or the Small Business Federation and all that sort of stuff, they are very much worth their money. Matthew Jane's on board. Good evening, Matthew. I'm glad I'm continue to educate you, and I look forward to catching up with you soon. Hi, Lisa. Aaron's on board. He says King David. Aaron Capasso. Must be one of yours, is it, David?
Aaron is my business partner.
There we are. See? You shouldn't have said that. You should have said, I've never seen him in my life.
I've never seen it. Well, I haven't seen him much recently, but yeah.
Becky's on board. Thank you, Becky, for joining me again tonight. Lovely always to see you. Becky was my first dual guest, David, so you really got some competition tonight. Robert John is on board. Good evening, Robert. Thank you for joining me tonight. Tanya Churchard. Hi, Carl. Do you know if the portal is open to register staff as furlough yet? I don't know if it is open. Do you know, David?
As far as I was told by my accountant, as long as I've given them the furlough letter, which I've got from my HR company, and furloughed them. So I've given out that, and I basically directed my accountant to tell them that I've furloughed them. My accountant does it all. As far as I understand it, I don't have to. She told me I don't have to do any more. Well, that
Tanya, the most important part is that you furlough your staff, but obviously don't forget you can only furlough your team with their agreement. You can't impose a furlough. So
I sent out a letter. I sent out a letter from Peninsula again. They gave me a letter, and they had to sign it and send it back. So I sent 2 letters, a bit like a contract, and it came back both ways.
I can't imagine anyone in their right mind wouldn't want to be furloughed, Tanya, but just telling you, you can't impose it. You may have, and if they don't want to sign it, you might have to look at other options like fully paying them or making them redundant or agreeing other options. But
so
Tanya,
on that as well, sorry, there's 2 parts of that. I remember writing now, actually. We had to put them on short-term layoff first, and then furlough them. So when we furloughed them on short-term layoff, we have to pay them for 5 days. We had to pay them £25 a day. And for the first 5 days, and then the government pays the furlough. That's how I'm not an accountant, but that's what we did.
That's exactly how this started a week ago. Is that we had to put them on short term. I think things have escalated quite rapidly since. But Tanya, the most important thing is that you get that agreement in writing with them. But Tanya, and all of you on here, there's a reason why we run this specialist event on Wednesdays with a human resources specialist and an accountancy specialist most Wednesdays, is because these are technical questions and you want to get legally binding, well, not legally binding, but legally authorized answers. This isn't the forum for it. We're happy to help you, but you should be asking all these questions to your accountant. And if you haven't got an accountant, I don't know how you run your business. All of you, please go off and get yourself an accountant. The amount of money it's going to cost you every year is insignificant to what they are going to be able to direct and save you. Lorna Cleland is on board. Good evening, Lorna. Yvonne's on board. Yes, I meant with paying wages, taxes, etc. It's the hardest way. I get that, Yvonne. It certainly is. But and as David said, you've got to balance it all up. It's right for some people, and I don't want to be critical of everyone who's got a self-employed setup. Do you know, I happen to know some very, very good self-employed setups that are run fairly and run legally, and I'm more than happy to see them continue. It's the other end of the spectrum that causes the industry some problems. Ellie's back. Ellie says, I prefer to employ, so it wanted to be offered when, I don't know what she's saying. We're moving on from you, Ellie. I can't understand. Mark says, yes, let's get that balanced view, employed versus self-employed. Mark, I think that might be really good as a spectacle in a few months' time. But I think the issues at the moment are too delicate to actually be bartering and debating this, because so many people are not going to be in that position in 3 months' time, because lots of people are going to go out of business, or lots of people are going to go from one type of employment to the other. But I think maybe as a spectacle, when all this kind of dies down, it might be well worth doing. Jane O'Connor's on board. Nice to see you again today, Jane. Good to see you twice. Helen says, no, she doesn't. Kay says, our prices are high. We pay high rent and it's worth every penny. I love being self-employed. We do everything above board, and the team of stylists are on the same page as any other salon I've ever worked in. Okay, well, that's great, Ellen. I'll keep calling you Helen. Sorry, Ellen. Sorry, Kay. You'll have to have a shorter name, make it easy for me. Like I said, there are salons out there doing a great job of that. Becky says, can't wait to come back on. Yeah, you're going to have to up your game there, Becky, if you want to get back on here. Okay, so I got a bit of a frozen screen a moment. Oh, you're going very well, guys. Cheryl Brown says, David, can I ask at what point you expanded your business? Did you rent a chair yourself first or go straight into salon ownership?
So tell a little bit about where I came from. So I originally was a full-time athlete to start off with, and my dad was a barber. Okay, so I rolled into my business through coming backwards and forwards when I was racing and training, and my dad taught me. And then I kind of took his business to the next level. So my dad has several shops. Originally, he had 4 shops altogether. We downsized it, and we had 1 shop. And then what we did, we made 1 shop great, and then we're just now gradually expanding. In 1 shop, we run 7 chairs all the time. The other one, we run 3. Now, expanding, we've talked about this all the time. Expanding is not always the way. You can expand a lot and not make any money. like my dad did. He expanded, had lots of people, and didn't really make much money. But the way we do it now is we've expanded to the point where we're so busy in our shop, we make far more money in the shops that we've got now than we did before, because it's run better and it's run efficiently. We've got an appointment system. I can analyze everything through our software, and so it's sometimes expanding is not always the way, but you've got to put the platforms in. If you're going to expand, if you're going to, my dad is an exceptionally good barber. He's probably one of the most, you'd learn masses of him for customer service, but he was never a businessman. He could never analyze things the same way as what we've done. I took what I took from a athletic point of view and put that into my business. So, for me as an athlete, I kind of thought, well, how do I go faster? How do I make myself better and have a goal? And I kind of did that with the business we have now, and I go, right, the business is here and I want to make it here. And how do I do that? And so it was a matter of putting a structure in place, put good foundations in place, and then gradually, like a HR company, like a good accountant, and then the good team, and then training that team so they follow the same pattern. And then gradually you naturally evolve, and because the whole thing goes with it, and it sort of pyramids out on its own. I mean, I've talked to you recently about, I've had so many opportunities since we won those awards to expand the business. Now, some of them are great. They all sounded great in theory, probably good I never did them in the end, with the current scenario. But, sometimes, expanding is great, but actually make sure you've got something great first to build on that, to put the foundations there, so that if you haven't got that foundation, you can't put the roots in to support what you're going to do next if you are going to expand. Does that help?
Great. You've answered my question, so that's great. Listen, guys, it's halfway through the show tonight. It's 9 o'clock, just gone 9 o'clock. We're happy to run till 9:30, maybe just a bit beyond. We want to get all your questions answered. You can phone in tonight if you want to, 07931 518 642, if you want to call in instead of putting your questions at the bottom. We're going to move on now, but I think so far you're all getting your questions answered. And David's done a great job of expanding his business in a good and professional way. Kay, not Helen, Kay says, I have an accountant. I hate doing the books. I could, but I'd rather spend time cutting than taxing my brain with figures. And do you know what, Kay? For most people, I think most people should spend their time doing things they're good at. They shouldn't spend their time doing things they're bad at, because when you do something that you're bad at, it's really slow. It's demotivating. You know what I mean? Even for myself as a business coach, I love marketing. I love getting close to my clients. I don't like developing software, even though I do develop it. So we need to use our skills in the right ways. But I would have one caveat with that, Kay, and that would be the salon owners that know their figures are usually the salon owners that thrive. The salon owners that have got no idea about their figures, and I'm not saying this UK, this is for the benefit of everyone else on the board tonight, do tend to struggle because they just look in their bank statement. If there's money there, they go great, and if there's no money there, they're in trouble.
That's the biggest problem, Carl. That's the biggest problem. It's like, that's what we put in place, a software that tells me, I mean, I'm not great looking at numbers, but I like graphs. Graphs for me kind of gives me, I've got a graph on each member of staff, their efficiency, how much they do, their daily rate, and it tells me. And I think you need things when you like that young lady just said there, she's working in her business. Now that's because she's going to push it like nobody else. She'll push it much more than anybody else. So she does need to be on the front to a degree, but it's also very good to have that facility where you get that software, like you just said, a piece of software. There's lots out there now, and that you can look at quickly and tells you, look, okay, that's that. Okay, I need to improve on that very quickly, without spending hours on it. Does that make sense?
Yeah, fabulous. Kay, I think you got your question. Well, it wasn't a question. You actually knew what you're doing. We're just trying to clarify it and say, use experts, but also keep your eye on the figures. Listen, guys, we still got over half the show to go. Can I ask you to make sure that if you do have any other managers or salon owners, we're about to start talking about how to be positive during this crisis. And we're also going to be talking about pricing a little bit. If you want to invite people along, it's still not too late. They're still going to get half an hour of proper business education. And I'm thinking, you see, this is the problem in the industry, that we aren't utilizing the education that's out there already. So I'm and David are giving up our time to make sure that you guys are really focused on what's going on soon. Ellie says, sorry, she had a problem with her phone. She won't be offering self-employment when they reopen. She wants to take back control. So, Ellie, sorry, I didn't understand it, but I get you now. Toria Swales has invited people. Thank you, Toria. That's good. Ellie, yeah, it was fun. Kay says, hi, Chris. She's talking to other people. Great. Becky's on board. Yours was great. They're all patting each other on the back, David. They're trying to outdo you. That's just women, but they're all sticking together.
Sorry, can I just quickly say something? You know, the lady that said she was going to open a shop, and when she opens it again and be self-employed, be employed,
Ellie.
She has to watch out. If she's got contracts with those people that are already self-employed, she can't just all of a sudden just go, right, you're out of the window. If she's got a contract that says you're there for 6-7 months, then she needs to look into that process.
Ellie, I don't know if Ellie has got existing staff or existing workers and is converting them, or whether she's done from scratch. But that's a really good point, Ellie. If you didn't get clarification on that, you can contact me separately. What David is saying is you can't take someone. I've done clarity for someone else on this today. You can't take someone off one contract and automatically put them onto another. And also, you can't make someone redundant now and then just take them back in a few weeks' time, or you can't take someone back in their place doing the same job of the same description. So, be careful, guys. We don't want to get back with all the excitement of packing our salons to end up with spending the next 12 months in tribunals. Ellie, I don't think she's heading that way, but for anyone else listening, that's a really, really great point. Kelly says, what appointment software do you use then, David?
I'm really lucky because we helped develop a bit of software. It's kind of where I met you, Carl, actually, at a show. A company called Tiltech. So Tiltech developed a bit of software with us for barbering industry. It was an all-in-one process. Now, what we used it for, we wanted something that was a social media system. We wanted something that was a HR system, an appointment system, a built-in app, a selling portal. We wanted everything all in one, so that when I go to put something on social media, I put it onto our website. We press 2 buttons and it goes off. So there are lots out there now that integrate into your websites. I know there are quite a few other brands that integrate into your own personal website, but we wanted something, like we said before, to expand the business, you've got to put foundations in place. And I liked everything. It was all in one place.
What are you recommending, David?
A company called Tiltech. We use a bit of software, and they're basically it's bespoke to the barbering industry. And to lady salons as well. It's designed for both now.
Well, Kelly's in the barbering sector. Kelly, if you fancy that idea of checking that out, either contact me and I'll get a link off David, or you contact David and he'll tell you what he's using. And we know that it works because he's got an award-winning team. Did you know that, guys?
Well, another thing we're going to talk about in a minute, which is getting yourself out of where we are now. That's where the software comes in as well, which we'll talk about in a minute soon.
Great. Okay, that's brilliant. Thank you, Cheryl says. Business brain first, hairstylist second. That's the way I believe it has to be. Cheryl, that's the way we have to change to. That it never used to have to be that way. It now has to be that way. And nothing to do with the virus or this situation or this recession. I've been dealing with salons losing money, not because of me, guys, for years. There's no need for it. In most cases, there's no need for it. You just got to switch it up and move on to being a business person. Pauline is on.
Barbers out there. There's amazing barbers out there, but they're not running the. They could make so much more if they analyze their business a little bit better. I mean, I'm not saying I'm the best, but I'm just, it's a shame that I look at it from an athlete's point of view and try and the only way to improve is to make your numbers better, and everyone's happy.
Yep. Tiana Neal says, great advice, David, on building a better salon. Richard McCabe is on board. Good evening, Richard. Nice to see you on here. Accountants are historians. Do you know, that's a really, really good point, guys. If you've ever followed me for a long time, you'll get to know this, right? If you ask me about an accountant, I would always say, never, ever, ever ask an accountant for business advice. And that's because when I had my accountants and I had my 4 salons, I went to them and they give me very, very bad advice, which cost me a lot of money. So never go to your accountant for business advice, because they've never run a business in their life apart from the one that they're in, all right? And they always react to what has historically happened. So if you go to them and say, look, I want to register for VAT, or I need to register for VAT, and you're really bad at retailing for the last year, then they're going to tell you to go at 13% or 12% to start with. So Richard's got a good point. First of all, he's not saying this, I'm saying this bit. Accountants are not the place to go for business advice. They are the place to go to for taxation and legal taxation advice, guys. Don't come to me or to Richard for that matter, or David, for legal advice on those issues. However, the trouble is, Ellie, we did your pricing today. What did I say to you straight away? Your accounts, or was it or Jane? I think it was one of you anyway. Your accounts are already a year out of date when you get them. And the early part of that is already a year out of date as well. So some of your accounts, if you're using accountant documentation, are up to 2 years out of date. So, Richard, good point. Accounts are historians. And, you know, good. Well done. Well done, Richard. Okay. Ellie says, I've really pushed myself with figures this week. I'm like Kay, but I do graphs and find it easier. Great. That's what lots of people do. John's on board. Oh, he's just saying big thumbs up. Zach says, I've got 2 self-employed, full-time, part-time barbers. Do you guys think if I have a male barber as well, I'll have more customers? Zaki, I don't think that there's any relation, in my opinion, between male and female barbers and male and the customers that like them. I think they're looking for, generally speaking, good barbers. David?
100%. Yeah, I mean, I hate this whole scenario. Men are better than women at barbering. I've got some great women barbers. I've had some great women barbers that come in my shop and work for me, and I respect them massively, and I think that the customers do as well. I think there is a little bit of a stigma when the older guys get in the chair. It takes a little while for them to win them over, but once they do, and you know, most lady barbers that have got all the skills, they know how to do it very quickly, and sometimes you find they go better than the guys. And there's, you know, there is definitely, you know, it's nice to have a good balance in a shop.
I want to throw it back to when I had my salons, and you know, we used to have this discussion over whether we had male or female hairdressers, and sometimes whether we had really smart girls with their makeup on. And you know what? I learned very quickly that you always went with the best people, whether they were male or female or skin or fat, or as long as they were highly professional and looked highly professional, you have to go for the best people. And you know, guys, you can't be you're not supposed to be sexist about these decisions in the first place.
The balance in the shop though, Carl, is great. I mean, I've got young lads, I've got old lads, I've got guys who are into football, I've got guys who don't even bother with football. And the balance in the shop, people, you know, and people build relationships on that person because they like who they are and they like their relationship with them and things they do. And I think if you have a good balance, I find the girls calm the boys down, and if you've got the balance within it, it just seems to work really well, you know. And I think a good balance of all sorts, definitely.
Okay, Jane wants to know more about the software. So Jane, can you contact David? He'll give you some data, some information. Kay's back. Are you going to be separate talk at some point? I'm not going to be talking, Kay, about the IR35 for at least 3 years. Okay. So I'm not even going to mention it for 3 years. How's that? I'll make you a promise. Okay. What else we got?
She's not got to worry.
Yeah, well, it's not going to affect us for years. There are things within the law that are going to bite us on the bum a lot quicker than IR35. Okay, the change in taxation, the change in VAT, all those things are coming our way. Okay. You need to deal with those. IR35 is a bit of a ghost at the moment. It's years away for the barbering and beauty and hairdressing industry. Don't worry about that. You've got more important things to worry about, and we need to get on to them now. Ellie says she's done it through NHF. Okay, I'm cutting all them off now, David. Let's talk about a couple of things. I want to have a quick rant because I want to make sure you get a 5-minute thing on price. Sorry to shout over you, David, on this one. Then we're going to spend the rest of the show until people disappear talking about how do we be positive when we get back. So first of all, guys, I'm only now going to talk about pricing, and I wasn't going to talk about it at all, But I was on a forum not very long ago in the last couple of hours, and people were out there saying, I'm cutting my prices, I'm slashing my prices, and they were lambasting people who were about to put their prices up. Now, I just want to say this. If you had a reason to put your prices up a month ago before this all kicked in, then the reason is still there. And if you didn't have a reason, but it was in your mind, the reasons have now doubled or tripled, because when you go back to work, some things are going to happen. You've got to pay your rent back to the landlord. You've got to pay your loans back to the bank. You've got to now engage your mortgage again. You've got to pay tax on that grant that you've got. Did you know that? Your debts are going up and up and up all the time. And it's not your responsibility to subsidize your client's income. At the same time, the income isn't as bad as you think it is. The income isn't as bad as 2008 at the moment. God knows what will happen. So I reserve some judgment, but you've got, OH pensioners on their pensions, which haven't been affected. You've got people from the forces and the army on their pensions, which haven't been affected. You've got half the workforce on 80% furlough, plus they're not spending anything on nights out, on fuel, on takeaways, nothing like that. The money is in the business. And at the same time, you've got key workers on full pay. So please, guys, don't be stupid. Don't come out of this problem with a big problem. If you ran out of money, seriously, if you ran out of money in that first few days, then your business was in massive trouble last week, last month, and last year. Now is the time to reset it. This is a great chance. So please, I'm not telling you to put your prices up. I'm telling you to make sure you've got the correct prices. Ellie did an exercise today. It's not for me to tell you her figures, but she had a great exercise and found out exactly where she should be. And now I know Ellie is very, very confident.
Can I just add to that a little bit? You talk about the prices, putting the prices up. I can see why people are scared to, because the relationship they have with their customers. But we talked about it before we went on. The problem you got when we go back is everybody's protocols are going to change completely to what they are now. Our timings are going to be longer. Our whole process of how we run our shop is going to be more costly. So if we were doing 3 customers an hour, say 1 every 20 minutes, the reality is we can't do that. We're not going to go straight back into our industry the way it was. So costs are going to go up because we can't do as much. So in turn, there has to be a minute rate we earn. And the reality, I love my customers like anybody else, because they are the business. But the reality is they're going to have to pay for what we're going to have to deliver when we go back. And no one knows yet, but I still think you're very right in saying that, I can see why people don't want to, because they're scared about their business. But the problem is, you've got to make money at the end of the day. And if you're actually making a loss, and you're right in saying that we're actually going to have these huge costs that are going to bite, they might not sink you now, but actually when we look at it 6 months down the road, when we open our doors again, we've got all these big jumps of all these things that we've got. Corporation tax is going to be due in January. We've got all then we're going to have to pay back the VAT that we're paying now, but we're going to have to pay the VAT at the same time. So it's a double hit. We're going to pay double the VAT at the same time. So you're very right in saying that, it's all well and good, raiding my corporation tax now.
So in short, guys, if you came on here for us to cheer you up, you're at a loss.
Yeah, let's cheer them up.
Okay. This is not the cheer up channel. This is Quick Coach TV. But look, David's got it right. It's coming at you from all angles. You must get your prices correct. You must look at your business in a very different way. Jack wants a quick question on VAT. He's saying, look, it's frozen till 2022. Do you think it'd be reduced or raised? I tell you what, Jack, lots of things are going to change before VAT. I think national insurance will change before VAT. I think taxation will change before VAT. When VAT does come, the information that I have, and perhaps it's just me hoping, is that more people will get pulled into the VAT threshold. I think it'll be lowered and it'll suck more people in, which will be a much more even playing field. But to be honest with you, Jack, for tonight, I got to push on because we don't know much more about VAT than that at the moment. So pricing, guys, in case you didn't know, I've got a Salon pricing app. Okay, a little bit of computer equipment that you can buy off me for 29 quid if you can't work it out. If you can't use a pen and a pad for 4 hours, you can buy a little bit of software off me and it'll work it out for you. I promise you, you can do it within a couple of hours.
So, okay, if people want to look at our software, they can go onto our website, Hairmasters Barbers, and they can see what our software does from the entry point of view. not the
There we are then.
but they can see that from there. So.
Okay, and I tell you, I'll get some links off David at the end of this as well, and I'll put them on the bottom of this page to make sure you can find the software, you can find his salon, all that sort of stuff. Bev says she's putting the prices up. Ellie says, good girl. Simon, they're spending it on hair care products. Okay, they are spending some on hair care products, but you can't buy a lot of hair care products in the supermarkets at the moment, Simon, because they blanket them all off. You can't even get a hair dye. Raymond is on board. Ellie says, minutes and pennies for me today. Yeah, she did really well. Lizzie Tucker is on board. Monday prices go up. That's what Mark Dawson says. And Cheryl says, so at the beginning of March, I had to let my employee go. We've done it with that, Cheryl. I'm going to have to come back to you. Let's do positivity. All right? Positivity, guys. Now, listen. You guys are going back to work. Most of you, all of you are going back to work, whether you want to or not. Okay, some of you are going to go back with your salons intact. Some of you are going to go back with bigger teams. I know Mark on here has employed 2 people last week. Some of you are going to go back with smaller teams. Some of you are going to go back self-employed. You're all going back to work, guys. Whether it's a fortnight, whether it's 3 months, we don't know. But what isn't happening is you're not using this time to be positive. And this is killing David and I. And this is what pushed us together on this issue today, even though we've left it to the last 10 minutes. Yeah. Right? It's pushed us together because we are concerned that I'm concerned that you're painting too many things, to be honest with you. I'm concerned you're painting your living room and your kitchen and your bathroom when you should be sat down working out your next social media marketing campaign, or sorting out your prices, or deciding what's the strategy for your staff training for the next 6 months. So, David, do you want to jump in and tell them the kind of stuff that you're doing?
Yeah, I mean, like you rightly say, this is the perfect opportunity. We've never had an opportunity where everybody's sitting at home, everyone's sitting online, and what we're trying to do is create positive vibes in everything we're doing. So we're trying to put a post out every day, something funny, something interesting, something, that we've got different parts of the team doing different things, but we're doing different things all the time to create interest into our page. Now, we did one where we closed, and we did quite a funny one with a Queen sketch. We want to break free. And that seems to have just literally, I'm not going to lie, I think it has 50,000 views. You can't pay for that kind of publicity. And, 50,000 views, not just locally, but it's being spread everywhere through people, shared and shared and shared. And I think the problem I see at the moment is I see this time as exciting. This for me now, this is like, it's a whole point of like, where am I ever going to get 3, 4, don't know how many months or weeks it's going to be to plan the business. So when we open and we're running and we're not walking, and we've got more clients because, subliminal messaging, if they see it everywhere, and, a lot of barbers have gone to ground. They've literally, the last post they put out was a post saying, sorry, we're closed, for the foreseeable future. Now it should be, right, okay, put a tutorial out on, I don't want too many. I've done some little ones on basic haircuts that people can do. I don't want to do too many of that because you don't want to show everybody your skills, but it's more things like styling your hair. Talk to people about the positive things you can do, and make it fun, make something interesting. And, my other business partner, Aaron, he's doing the funny side. I'm doing the serious side, and we're doing like, Jekyll and Hyde. One day he does a spin-off of what I've done the day before, and vice versa,
I don't know if you know, David, if you can get your hands on that video quickly. Is it on YouTube?
It's been shared all over the place. Hairmasters Barbers. It's on our page.
Oh, because you can't actually share it on this software as we speak if you had it at hand.
Oh, but Carl, you know me. I'm not. I'm about as 10. I didn't bring the 11-year-old back in.
You was telling me you was the new Bill Gates earlier.
Well, yeah. With the help of my son.
Look, John, Robert. Sorry, Robert. I always get your name wrong. All these guys with second names. Robert's saying the same. Look, positivity is the way. And do you know what? I can tell you now that all of us, and I say us because you won't find anyone more positive than I am. All of us who are positive are going to come out the other side of this better in the long run. That doesn't mean we're going to just come out and sort of go, oh, that was fine. There was nothing wrong. We're all going to suffer, guys. All right?
It's going to sting.
We're all going to suffer one way or another. But you know what? myself, I'll tell you, I speak for myself. I am making so many great contacts. I'm putting the hours in, make sure I'm connecting with the right people. Those people are going to come out the other side, either giving me work directly or indirectly. I'm not going to give up. You shouldn't in your business. I've got to just repeat that, David. You'll never have another 3 or 4 or 5 or 6 weeks off work to work on your business. It's never going to happen ever again. Okay,
No,
so
definitely. I've never had an opportunity where I literally can analyze every part of my business. Like you said, I would have never got time to talk to you over the time that I've had and other people I spoke to. And the reality of that is, if you can build, I'm working with other companies to whatever I post on our social media, they post, and whatever they post, I post. So I've linked up with other companies, not barbers, but plumbers, electricians, carpenters. So we all try and do something funny and uplifting and throw it out there, because everyone's sitting on their phone on Facebook. All of a sudden, I've built up I get one post. It doesn't go to, mine. It goes to, 30,000 people in one hit. And you just building those relationships. Hopefully, when we finish this, you're building something, another platform that you actually can step on again and go another step. Does that make sense?
it does to me. I hope it does to you guys out there as well. So listen, guys, you've got to be positive about what you're doing. From a coaching point of view, I want you to do some serious kind of planning and organizing. I want you all of you, to check your prices. I want all of you to have some basic marketing plan in place. Okay. I don't want any of you to slash your prices to get a few more customers when we go back. When you're marketing, think about the offers. Now, I used this terminology last week based on a book that I can't see now, called The Irresistible Offer. Think about, when you go back, what is the irresistible offer for your clients? When they see it on social media, when they see it on a poster in the window, when they see it on an email, what's going to make them think, wow, got to get in there and see that.
Carl, can I just fill in on that a little bit? Sorry.
Yeah, go for it.
Said about you've got to have a USP. When we go back, we've got to have a USP that makes you stand out to everyone else. And that's a great opportunity, is if our protocols are better than everybody else's, if our, sanitizing procedures, if our, our whole appointment system, so things are spread out a bit better, you stand out to the competition. So the problem is gaining consumer confidence. When we open those doors, we want consumers to believe in our product that we're going to give them is safe, reliable, and, because that's so different to what we've had before. So that's one of the biggest things I think we really need to look at. People need to look at is actually, how are we going to go back, and what, how can I stand out above everybody else? Is my procedures going to be so much more than everyone else? If you do that the minute the doors open, you may create new clients because of it straight away, because they'll have more confidence in your brand.
Nicola kind of pushes this onto another level. But Nicola, I'm just going to summarize your question. I'm sorry, Cheryl. I am going to message you independently after the show just to make sure that you get your question answered in detail about recruitment. So don't think I'm going to miss you out. Nicola is basically saying, what shall I do? I'm about to take on a new salon. I've been working in it for a number of years. I'm taking it over from someone. But Nicola, I would say this to anyone who's planning on opening a salon. You now have time to plan. Nobody's ever opened, well, not nobody, not many people have opened a salon, like today. Oh, I've just bought the shop today. Nothing's a shock, guys. At some stage you're going back. So you need everything in place. You can do your market research on what your competition are doing. You can set your prices now based on your overheads. You can find out what all your overheads are. You could identify your target audience in the area. You can get your marketing plan right. You could even design your leaflets for when we go back. Your window posters can all be ready on your laptop. So, Nicola, what I would be doing now, I don't have any tips that I can say, listen, what you need to do when you go back is actually give everyone beer, because there's not one thing when you're running a business that you need to do to make it successful. You need to have structures for your staff. You need to have communication systems for your staff. You need to have an appraisal and a development. You need a blueprint, which means everything that happens from the front door until they hit the chair, and then until that customer goes back to reception, until they go home. You've got to have all these systems, all these structures in place. So, Nicola, it's a bit of a big question to be hitting a kind of a chat show, if you know what I mean. But I would say you must plan it, Nicola, and that's what you need to do. You need a big pad and a pen, and you need to start at the beginning. And maybe you just need to get another salon owner or maybe you can find the right type of coach to help you with this. I'm not the kind of coach to kick you off with a new business, but I do know people if you're really, really stuck. Okay, we got the last few minutes, guys. We are finished. We will carry on for a few more minutes unless you guys dump and go on us. If you have any more questions, we are going to try and get through with you. Right, let's have a look. John says positive thinking, positive thinking, positive thinking. I think Robert's given us a really good message there. Ellie says she's loving it. It's been a real education for her. Bev Steele's giving me the headmasters. Link is on you guys from Bev Steele. She's supporting you today, David.
Good
Jane
girl,
O'Connor.
Bev. Love you, Bev.
Jane says she's not giving up either. She's seriously excited. All thanks to your help and positivity, Carl. Can't thank you enough. Jane, I really, really appreciate that. Donna is just joined us, and Cheryl says, thanks, Angel. We got a few more. I do want to tell everyone on here that next week, my guest is going to be Donna Clayton, and we're going to change the whole angle of this show. We are going to be talking mainly about online training courses and the good ones that Donna's fully aware of and wants to give you proper professional steer, things to stay away from, because this is great time, guys. This is a great time to be doing education. I don't know if anyone noticed, but I put my YouTube link up earlier today to say there's 100 free videos on there. 100, okay? But there are courses out there as well, which are fantastic during this period. Stop painting the walls, guys. Stop painting the kitchen and the bathroom. Go and do a course. So Donna next week is my guest, and she is going to tell you all about courses. So completely different angle to this week. Cheryl says, thanks. Donna says, loving this, a real positive vibe. Paul says, have you been, he's calling someone on. Thanks, Paul. Nicholas says, thank you both. Donna Clayton, lots of loves and kisses. We've done great. Would you like to kind of start bringing some summary to this, David?
Yeah, like you just said, I mean, opportunity is never been before ever in my lifetime. I don't think we'll ever get it again, hopefully. And, thrive off it. Don't put your head down. If sport ever taught me one thing, and don't give up till you hit the line, don't, because lots of things can happen. And if you just keep being positive and driving your business in the positive manner, your dreams are made of it. So it can happen, definitely.
Can I don't want to leave you on a down, guys. I want to make sure we leave on an up, but I just want you to be honest with yourself. This is the one thing you take away from today, okay? From wherever you speak to me, in fact. The one thing I want you to take away today, be honest with yourself, okay, in your heart, and say, was my business good 2 months ago?
Yeah.
Okay? If it wasn't good 2 months ago, take it on board that it was your fault and it was you not following the right business processes. Once you've done that, you're on the way to being successful. If you're going to be arrogant and you're going to think, well, 2 months ago it was all right because I was getting a wage out of it, but you ran out of money after a week, you are going to struggle. I seriously know you are going to struggle because of the things David said about you're going to have to go back on not less hours, but more time for your clients, further apart, overheads, all the loans to pay back. So please, whenever you got a business problem, look at yourself first. And if you can honestly put your hand on your heart and say, it was me, then you can go forward and you can change it. Okay. I've always done that in my business career. All the mistakes I've made, what makes me a good business coach partly is all the mistakes I made, guys.
No one's got the right answers as well, Carl. I think that's another thing. No one's got the right answers. It's you've got to be judgmental to yourself, and you've got to be able to criticize yourself to make sure you push yourself in the right direction. 100%. Donna
Clayton says time to tool up. And that's completely right. And I let you talk about that as well, Donna, because that's what I was talking tonight about, tooling up, about having accountants and coaches and HR people and specialists. But listen, take a look at yourself first. Admit that you've had problems. Admit that they're mostly to do with you, because if you're the salon owner, it's all your fault, guys. Now wake up tomorrow, put the paintbrush away and get planning, please. And if you need help, get hold of myself, get hold of David, get hold of someone, but don't spend the next month sitting down watching daytime TV.
100%.
I'll see you all next Wednesday at 8:30. If you want me before then, you just got to inbox me.
Thanks, guys.
Okay, good night, guys. Thanks, everyone.